Alrighty, we'll kick off. Obviously, welcome everyone. Great to see some new and familiar faces joining us today. We are recording today's webinar, so just letting everyone know that. And also, we have enabled mics and cameras to be available to everyone. So that's to enable the Q&A session at the end of the webinar, so stick around for that. And then obviously, if you've got any questions throughout the session, or you've got any thoughts or anything you want to add, just chuck it in the chat or in the Q&A, and we can come back to it towards the end at the Q&A session. First of all, I'd just like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today, and pay my respects to elders past and present. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Daniel Wortman, and I'm the National Marketing and Promotions Manager here at AgriProve. And it is a pleasure today to host the webinar, our specific webinar with LawrieCo on from soil health to carbon gains, leveraging biological inputs for better farming systems. For our webinars, we have a specific structure we like to follow. So initially, I'll just give you a quick portfolio update from an AgriProve perspective before we hand over to Rodney and the LawrieCo team to add to the webinar from their perspective. And then also, we've also got Luke Felmingham from 5 Carbon Project on today to talk about his farm and soil carbon project, which is excellent to have. And welcome to those guys as well. So yeah, like I said, make sure you stick around to the end of the webinar for the Q&A. That'll be really engaging and really interesting to answer any of the questions that you come across throughout the session. And now that we've got the formalities out of the way, we'll jump into the session. So just a quick overview of the AgriProve portfolio. For those of you that have been following along for a while and following AgriProve's progress, this map will look pretty familiar, but a quick explanation for the newcomers. So the dark green circles on the map there, they're registered soil carbon projects. The light green dots are ones with a measured increase in soil carbon, and the orange dots are ones that have been issued ACCUs. So those projects there on the map, they equate to 70% of all the soil carbon projects in Australia. That's over 550 soil carbon projects registered Australia-wide, equating to over 160,000 hectares of land. Those orange dots have been issued over 85,000 ACCUs to date. The light green dots are the projects with the measured increase in soil carbon. There's over 70 of those on that map there. And then in terms of ACCUs to be issued, so there's over 200,000 ACCUs to be issued that are going through the process with the regulator that are to come online still. So really exciting from a portfolio perspective. So at AgriProve, we understand that Australian farmers are facing increasing sustainability challenges. There's rising costs that are squeezing already tight margins. Unpredictable weather is reducing farm productivity and threatening yields. And there's also increased pressure to adopt sustainable practices without a clear financial benefit. At AgriProve, we think there is an opportunity to boost your income with healthier soil and by earning carbon credits from sustainable practices. Give yourself options through ACCU income and the ability to reinvest in your operation. And then also sustainable farming is productive and profitable. And we see it as a way to work smarter, not harder, and lead to better soils, better farms, and better profits for all Australian farmers. So for the newcomers, this slide would look familiar for some of the ones that have been following along. But our AgriProve platform, which we launched back in the end of 2024, which has been live for a little while now, is basically the place where you can assess your farm and manage your soil carbon project for our registered landholders. It has a great deal of features within it. If you haven't jumped on and created an account, I do recommend you do so, whether you're looking at a soil carbon project initially or if you are managing your project, jump in there. There's always new features and new updates coming through. Within the AgriProve MarketPlace, it's also great to have some new products which were just recently listed, and great to have the LawrieCo team on board to talk more about them today. The marketplace is a great way for farmers to be able to purchase ag tech and ag services and ag products. You can basically access the marketplace through your AgriProve account, select a product, select your payment type. You can pay it with cash, deferred ACCUs, or a mixture of both. The deferred ACCUs are only currently available for specific products, but we are looking to roll that out further as we go forward. So without further ado, I suppose I'll hand over to Rodney Capon, one of the team members at LawrieCo, who's been working really closely with Luke on his carbon project and on his farm. Great to have you on board today, Rod. Oh, Rod, you just on mute, sorry.
Thanks, Dan. That's better. Yeah, skip along to the next slide, and we'll go from there. But yeah, I've been fortunate enough to be working with Luke Felmingham, who was Australia's first cropping recipient of carbon credits. And most of today's presentation is going to be focused on what Luke's been doing and an overview of his farm for everyone, and a bit of an insight into how he found getting into a carbon project, and then the process through to the issuance of credits. So a lot of you will be aware of LawrieCo, but I've been with LawrieCo for nearly 10 years now and come from a farming background, so fortunate enough to be on both sides of the fence. So LawrieCo, we specialise in helping farmers build soil and plant health whilst maintaining high production. We're also fortunate enough to have an excellent agronomy team to support farmers in transition, both into just more regenerative agriculture, but also into carbon farming projects and ways for them to get maximum results and build the most amount of carbon. We have a system that we've developed to specifically go through and identify all different options to either complement existing programs, in some cases switch products out for new products, but to make sure that the conventional products that we know do cause harm to soil biology and soil health are either buffered to the maximum ability and used to the most of their efficiency to try and reduce the damage to the soil and and the soil system. So we also work very close with AgriProve as an interface between AgriProve and the farmer to help farmers get established with a soil carbon project, and to identify the most, I guess the most eligible, or the eligible activity that is most going to benefit the farmer when setting up those projects. And then we work with the farmer to implement programs to then reduce the damage to their soil from their conventional inputs, and progress through to building a healthier, more sustainable farming system. We're lucky enough to work right across the country and with all types of farming enterprises. So today's talk is mainly about Luke, who is a hay and crop producer, but we do a lot of work in horticulture. We also do a lot of work in grazing enterprises as well. So doesn't matter what you're doing, we have a system and products that can fit all farming enterprises. So that's probably enough of that one. If we skip to the next slide, Dan. So we're going to go through some of the things that Luke has implemented on his farm. So along with a robust farming or farm management program, he's also changed out a few things and complemented and buffered some of his synthetic inputs. And later on in the presentation, you'll see the results speak for themselves. So we did discuss that there were a number of graziers in today's webinar. There are products that you can just shift out, which we won't go into a lot of detail with, but things like our biograze can be just swapped straight out for single super, giving a whole lot of benefits over the detrimental effects that just some of those synthetic fertilizers can have. So a simple shift like that can introduce buffering, and can introduce trace elements, phosphorus, calcium, other minerals as well, can be custom blended. So that's on the AgriProve MarketPlace as well, if you want more details. But then also, I guess we're also here to help farmers to decide what's best. So getting back to Luke, he's a very busy man. He doesn't have a lot of time on his hands. He's limited to the machinery that he's got. He wanted to implement something that would fit within his existing program and complement that for minimal cost, but still maintain full production and build soil health at the same time. So Luke basically treated his seeds with a biological seed inoculant. So short crop BAM and short crop prime on his canola. That gave the plants all the minerals, all the biostimulants, and introduced some biology into that system as well. So that was one of the first things he did. All of his synthetic fertilizer, his starter fert, was buffered with humic acid. So that meant that it was less toxic to the soil biology, it was less susceptible to leaching, plant uptake was better, and there was some biostimulation there to bring back a bit more balance into his biology. He did a spread of spreading urea, or both. He spread some urea and also did some foliar nitrogen. The urea that he broadcast was all coated with a fertilizer coating called Enhance, which reduces volatilization, reduces leaching, and most importantly, takes away some of that toxic effect from the biology. He did do some foliar spraying as well, so really to try and lift the sugars in those plants and push carbohydrates back into the soil. So a number of different things we use there, but predominantly Phoskel Boost and liquid nitrogen was applied. All of his ag chem was buffered with fulvic acid. We've got a fulvic acid concentrate called F75. So that does a number of things. It increases the efficiency of many of the ag chem as far as getting it into the plant. It also binds it up in the soil system and reduces the antagonism to the biology, as well as reducing root availability with some of those more persistent chemicals. And then another one of the key things that he was able to do was digest his residues through fungal digestion using a product called Stubble Digest. So not only does this drag carbon from that residue back into the soil as opposed to having it oxidized into the atmosphere, it also preserves a lot of nitrogen and makes the residue very crumbly so that it can be sown back through with conventional equipment without having to burn. So that's a little bit of an overview of what Luke did, and I think now Luke would like to give it from his perspective.
Thanks, Rodney. So my name's Luke Felmingham. I'm based in Northern Victoria, up in a little township called Invergordon. Traditionally dairy and orchard, and that's sort of gone by the wayside over the last 5 to 10 years. So we've changed our what we do here and what we grow. We're on 640 hectares of irrigation and dry land, and the project we're talking about today is the Fife Soil Carbon Project, which is my project. My father's also got a project in as well. We're hay and grain producing property, which is a large multi-farm operation, and one of our biggest exports off is lucerne hay and hay in general. So we're sort of always low and battling the carbon demon, I suppose, with the way we farm and what we do.
No. Terrific.
Just a
Do you
picture
think
in.
you can put the kettle on for me, mate? Thank you.
That's just a picture of me in a crop of oats that we stripped for seed last year. It was a cranking crop and yielded really well. Next slide. So what we're doing this year, we've got 230 hectares of oats in. Still deciding the split in regards to if that's going to be stripped for grain or for seed production or hay. As everyone knows, it's a pretty tough season this year, so plans are out the window. I've got 40 hectares of wheat in. Went pretty hard on canola this year, 220 hectares there, 70 hectares of ryegrass, 130 hectare lucerne, and 18 hectares of shafted clover. So our operation, as I said, is fairly heavily into hay production. Our equipment is large square balers, round balers, small square balers. We produce around 150,000 small squares a year, which goes into primarily the equine market. We do some laser grading. We have a couple of seeders. Our Seraphim disc seeder is one of the is fairly new to us, so that sort of was implemented to help along with our soil carbon direction, and then a bit of spraying and things like that. As well as farming, we also offer these services in the local area as contracting services as well. Next slide. So, yeah, we're based in the Goulburn Valley. Our water is in the Goulburn system. About 50% of the operation is irrigated via flood irrigation and spray irrigation. The remain is dry land. So our allocation at the moment is a measly 38%. Water price this year is it's on the high side. It's not out of control yet, but we are certainly looking for a rain. Next slide. So setting up my soil carbon project with my experience with LawrieCo and AgriProve. Look, I was introduced to it there, and I'm a pretty skeptical person. So, and as it was said earlier by Rodney, that I'm quite busy. I've got a finger in a fair few pies, so it needed to be easy. So the reason I went with these guys is just pure ease, and some good relationships there with the LawrieCo team as well to guide me through. So they come out, they did the baselines, happy days. We began implementing step by step the recommendations put through, and the rest is history, really. Next slide. So what we've done to integrate into our current program whilst maintaining our crop production, we were conventional farmers, and we still are to a decent extent. So the additional things we've added have fitted it well into our operation. Like that was really important for us with any of the additional things. So as Rod said, we're just, when we're sowing our crops, we're putting in a seed coating on the seed. So no different to what we'd normally do anyway with a lot of the products we're putting in, and that's helped buffering a lot of things when we're sowing with fertilizer. We're adding in the Humate Prills, so we're just ordering our truckload of fertilizer from port, putting it here, and then adding in a Humate Prill. So we're not coating that fertilizer. It's quite easy there to help buffer, and yeah. That's sort of our sowing program. With our urea, if we are going granular at the time, we just get our urea provider to put the enhance on it at 3 litres a tonne of fert. So it's not a high rate, doesn't make the fert wet, doesn't affect the spreading or any problems there. So it's been straightforward. And the easiest thing for us really has been just the addition of the fulvic acid into most of our spray mixes. It's a nice low rate. It's not really like it doesn't, it's easy mixing. It's not a problem with any of that stuff. And then onto our other more intensive crops, we're putting a lot more liquid in. So we are trying to use less granular fert and synthetic fert, but like I said, it's still a big part of our operation. But then we do like to give everything a shot in the vein over tough years when we start to get a bit of variable in crop, and even at the moment with lack of rain and stuff, it's quite risky going a bit hard with inputs. They're quite expensive, so we've been able to buffer the products and make them a bit more of plant available by putting some liquid sprays out and things like that at lower rates and getting better results. Next slide. So yeah, the audit and credit issuance. So easy process. Like I said, it's basically fully outsourced with AgriProve there. Constant phone calls, checking in, making sure we're tracking all right. Yeah, so they're doing all the behind the scenes stuff. Across my travels, talking to other people about this, they've had really tough processes getting through everything. And trying to do a lot of stuff themselves. So it makes me feel at ease, like knowing I'm in good hands pretty much with AgriProve and LawrieCo just guiding me through the process. Yeah, so I've been really happy with that. The government just flew their man out one day, took some photos to prove the project, and yeah, we did some from the baseline testing. We did the in-crop testing, and then we did another round of testing with this project just to prove it, because as you'll see, the gains on it were pretty extreme. It was a pretty good return on this project in 12 months. Next slide.
Sorry, Luke, just on that as well, as for your record keeping, do you use any specific programs or anything like that for help with that documentation?
Oh yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, so yeah, I'd recommend the main thing here is to use a ag world or paddock or farm management program to put that through. So generally in the vetting process, I'll just send off a report out of ag world to AgriProve, and you guys will pick through it and pick out all the from everything from go to O, so sowing, any in-crop nutrition, in-crop sprays, all the way to harvesting, and AgriProve will go through that and punch all that into for the regulatory sort of stuff. But yeah, that probably just helps the process along by having a farm management program, just tracking and stuff. So it's no different to what we've what we've done. Like I've run Ag World for 10 plus years since its inception, I think. So it just really helps with just any of those little questions, because I'm a goldfish. Once I'm around the other side, I've forgotten what I've done. I've got that much going on. So
Oh, that's great.
yeah. So what we've seen, to be honest, the canola crop that we had with this project, it was the year of it. It was a battle. The previous year was it was wet. The paddock had saturation points on it, water laying on it, and all that stuff. And then the canola took a bit to get going for this one, so we were really up against it. And the agronomist in the early days was actually telling us to possibly consider sowing barley over the top. So and we nearly hit 3 ton average, I'm pretty sure, on that paddock for grain yield back off it in canola. And the canola was paying well. So as well as the addition for the carbon credits that year, absolutely cranking return per hectare.
That's great, Luke. No, excellent to hear. Have you, sorry, just on the, I suppose, the yield side of things, how did the crop go that year as well, just from a just standard farming operation side of things?
Yeah, so like I said, that one was pretty up and down early on. So it was nervous there, and then we went in with the drone, and we applied a heap of sort of liquid products like LawrieCo products over the top, just to give it a boost, shot in the vein. And I think in a year when you've got stuff that's uneven, and you're really looking at cost of production, it was a turnaround. Like, this project was a real turnaround to where it was, because you're still dealing with a fair few agros that they're fairly conventional. So it's black and white with them. They have their everything what they want to do, and it's hard. It's hard sometimes cancelling something out that you've put a lot into. And like I said, the canola price was a good price that year, and if you were going to wipe out something to sow barley, and it would have been a disaster. And the value of hindsight on this project was, like I said, the yield was a good yield for where we started from. That's dry land paddock there, so it wasn't under irrigation. It was completely dry and hit that 3 ton a hectare yield. So we were very pleased with it.
Excellent.
So sorry, Daniel. So I guess that's your canola, Luke, but there's a lot of other crops that you're growing as well. And the general perception that's sort of been a bit of a stigma into this whole regen farming and building soil carbon is that often there's a yield penalty to pay. So you've implemented all of these sort of carbon building activities into your system. Have you sort of seen any major decline in yield, or have you kind of noticing improved uniformity and farming practices going well, combined with the building the soil carbon?
Yeah, well, like I said, the cost of inputs at the moment is high, and it's important to try and keep them under control while continuing to get good yield. So, we're in an area where ground's worth somewhere between 6,000 to 10,000 an acre, and when you're paying interest repayments on that, you can't afford to take a yield penalty. So if I wasn't seeing an improvement, I wouldn't be I wouldn't be doing it. And we're coming round to sometimes with the irrigation second and third layouts. And, we're only sort of 30 odd years into irrigation layout in our area, where we've got limited topsoil. We've destroyed soil structure over the last 20, 30 years or more. And we're seeing paddocks as they get under moisture stress. So whether it's too wet or too dry, the uniformity of paddocks is a big issue for us. So that's something that we've been and as you know, Rod, we've been working on that really hard the last 12 to 18 months is trying to get paddock uniformity good, and water holding capacity in that soil, I think is pretty important. So in a heavy rain event, we want that water to soak in or be utilised, and in dry times like at the moment, we want to be sucking every last drop out of that soil and not having plant stress. And I think that's important that if you can avoid that plant stress throughout its growing season, then you're helping your yield and everything like that along. So
that's excellent. Do you have anything, Daniel?
No, I think that's great, Luke. Thanks for sharing. I think the next slide is just our FAQ. So I think if you've got any questions, feel free to just raise your hand using the raise function at the top of the screen, and unmute. Or if you're more comfortable just typing it in, feel free to do that as well. So there's obviously the chat and the Q&A there to use as well. Just while we're waiting on a question, just a few standard FAQs that we get pretty regularly is, can anyone use the AgriProve platform? So yes, anyone is able to use the AgriProve platform, and you don't have to have a soil carbon project to access it. It is free to do an emissions assessment on the platform. There's no cost. It just takes a bit of time to do, depending on what level of emissions assessment you're looking to do. The initial assessment can take a few minutes, but if you're looking to do a full greenhouse accounting framework, so GAF assessment, it can take up to 30 minutes. Make sure you got some records there if you to be able to enter it. And then just off the back of our recent launch for credentialing, we've launched our first credential in the platform of the Greenham's beef sustainability standard. I know we've been talking about cropping today, but that's one we've been getting a bit regularly since the launch. So there's more in the pipeline for the rest of the year to add more of these credentials to enable farmers to access premiums on their commodities and on their produce. But that's sort of the main ones we have initially here. Is there any? It looks like the Q&A has had a question come in. So question for Luke, where did you visually observe the greatest agronomic benefit from those input tweaks, seed treatment or foliars, for example?
Yeah, well, it's certainly, I think the foliars are the best. Yeah, like in my opinion, what I've seen and what I've noticed. So it's a shot in the vein. It's a faster response. It's pretty hard to see, what a seed coating does, for example. So yeah, I know what we're using it for. I know what we're doing with it, and it's all part of the big picture. But yeah, certainly when you're putting out, say, lower, you might be saving 20, 30, 40% on a fertilizer bill. Mixing a bit of LawrieCo stuff in the brew and spraying it out on the paddock for a quicker response. Yeah, that's been a real game changer for us.
Thanks for that question, Angus. One from Dylan here. Luke, just are you selling your crops into any supply chains or international markets that could be paying a premium based on your management. So are you looking for, do you access any sort of credentials or premiums based on your produce at the moment or crop output?
It's on the radar.
It's on the radar. Yeah.
So not yet. We're only a couple years into this. Obviously, and yeah, just thinking dates. I can't remember all the dates, but we're 2025 now. Our credits were issued. Yeah, you'll have to correct me. Whether it was either start of this year, maybe, or late last year for the first 12 months of the project. And I'm sitting, I'm holding my credits there for either future use or future sales. Haven't decided. It's just a benefit that we've got. So where I've gone, I suppose, with this is just looking at the 2030 and 2050 targets that are being set worldwide. And the biggest issue I see is that unless you're in a project with the base, like to get the baseline, you've sort of got to be in a project. So I identified that I needed to do better with what we're doing here, so farming practices and stuff. And I'm in my 40s, so I've still got a few years of farming to go to see this project out. So yeah, it was really important for me to make sure we had that baseline. And if we're going to start improving things, is to make sure it's quantified and collected, and I'm not missing out on anything. So that's sort of what we've done there. And at this stage, I'll keep my credits, keep banking my credits, and see what happens, because it's a volatile place out there, and whether we have to use that to mitigate some of our costs in the future, don't know. I'm sure there's there's suppliers out there, people out there that are purchasing some of our hay or grain and things like that would love to put that on about our carbon crusade and all the good things that we are doing for soil health and things like that. But yeah, haven't even looked into it or thought about it yet.
Excellent. It's great to have the options there now that you've got the credits issued to your project. Rodney, I think this one's probably one that you might be able to answer or explain a little bit. So can you explain how the use of urea doesn't interfere with the carbon, or doesn't interfere with carbon build, or how that exchange works?
Yeah, no worries. So look, it's not the ideal situation. There is always going to be some antagonism with putting urea and particularly large hits into the field at any one time. So some of the things Luke's done to mitigate that is he's gone to more frequent, smaller applications. And the major thing he's done is he's coating it with the Biomax Enhanced. So that's a humic acid, fulvic acid, kelp blend, which dramatically reduces the antagonism on the soil biology, makes it more efficient, so it reduces volatilization, it reduces leaching, and it increases plant uptake at the same time. So less will do more. So that reduction in the antagonism with the soil biology, and particularly the detrimental of reducing the detriment that has on some of the more susceptible soil biology is kind of key. So as we go forward, we are doing more liquid nitrogen, but we know that we do need nitrogen in the soil. Something Luke and I are discussing at the moment is using more sulfate of ammonia over urea as a more biologically friendly nitrogen input.
Thanks, Rod. So just jumping back to the Q&A, looks like we've got a couple more questions. Another one from Angus. He's asking, did I interpret the first slide correctly around 550 registered soil carbon projects with 70 having shown SOC increases so far? Yeah, that is correct, Angus. 550 projects with 70 increases to date. A number of those projects have been registered in the last couple of years, so obviously they're very early on in their soil carbon project journey. So yeah, obviously looking to increase that number as we move forward, but great to have that many on board and looking to build carbon on their farms. And then another question here from Stuart. So how long did it take you from exploring soil carbon options to generating credit? So basically when you heard about carbon and the whole soil carbon element, and then all the way through to when you've got some credits issued to you.
Yeah, so LawrieCo, fellow living up the road, dropped in, said do this. I said, don't think so, not real keen. And they said, oh, it's, you know, it's probably worth your while. So I said, sure, we'll give it a go. That was 2022, I think. And like I said, the first crop in that paddock was wheat. It was basically flooded. You know, we finished harvesting that sometime in late January or February, because that was when the paddock was dry enough to re-enter. And that was sort of the start of it. We put a bit of digest out on the paddock there to try and deal with the residue that we had, and went into canola. Baselines were done around that time of prior to sowing canola, and it started on the LawrieCo program of inputs, I suppose. Did a in-crop, or the satellites flew over, I believe, and said there's some really good carbon gains there. So we're going to come out and do the secondary testing. That was done. And then they said these results are really good. So that would have been sometime around August, like August-ish. They wanted to come back and re-enter. And I said, I don't think so, because it was pretty, like I said, still a bit wet then at the time. And the canola was flowering. And I said, I didn't really want you driving over the paddock. But between AgriProve and LawrieCo, they put a pretty good case forward. And I said, well, fine, if you reckon it's going to pay, then go do it. But if you get bogged, I'm not taking you, I'm not pulling you out. And the rest is history from there. So we spent the next 6 to 8 months after that just through the audit process. So it didn't take that long in time to do it. It was just, the testing's done. It's the credits are proven. It's pretty much 12 months from inception of the project to starting. So it was pretty extreme. And then, yeah, the credits were issued in December 2024. So, yeah, so that was for the canola in 2023, I believe, that paddock. So, yeah, mid-year, I think we looked at it with the government representative to check over the project and make sure all the I's were dotted and T's were crossed. And then it just sat with the regulator until they ticked the box then. So, yeah. Hopefully that answers it.
Yeah, thanks, Luke. That's great. Looks like we haven't had any more questions come in today. I'll just quickly give one more shout out to the group. Just if you do have one, throw it in the chat or raise your hand. We can got a little bit of time left.
Do you want to go into a little bit of detail about the residue digestion, Luke? Because that sort of played a pretty big part. I know that last year with the drought and the limited residue, and then the dry summer, we didn't get onto it. But the previous year, that would be one of the instrumental things that we sort of did that gave some results. How was that process for you?
Yeah, so no, that's right. And that was the biggest issue. So even with a disc seeder, because the straw was absolutely rubbish. You know, it was probably it was laying down. Like I said, it was a wet year. There were spots where the straw was, say, 3 tonne a hectare. There were spots where the straw residue would have been 10 tonne a hectare. And we saw we really had a need to, well, the only other option was burning it, really, to get through it. So we stuck to the cause. We put the digest out. It was either late one evening or early one morning before a heavy dew, and some hopefully subsequent rains, and yeah, so obviously that's you guys, yeah, pretty certain that helped attribute to it, because it's really you're spraying something out on the paddock that you're not, it's not like the other foliars we're putting out on crop that you can actually see something happening, so you can see that extra growth or anything. You're spraying it out on a dry dead stubble paddock. So yeah, it's yeah, that one probably took the most convincing for me. But obviously, like you said, Rodney, it certainly helped increase the results. And then through that, we're trying to use less fungicides, so and all that stuff. And that's where having your agro on board is really important, because in our area you find that you have your ag world plan, and you've got you're spraying fungicide 2-3 times on some crops. So yeah, like we've seen reduced with that digest, reduced fungicide applications and things like that. So yeah.
And you were able to get through those big residues with your seeder following the digest application without burning? Yeah.
Excellent. Thanks, Luke. There's been another one just drop into the chat just now. One for you, Rod. Can you tell us more about the digest, cellulose digesting fungi, nutrient and sugars to feed existing biology?
Yep. Yeah, so the digest comes as a 2-part product. So it comes as a microbial inoculant, and it also comes as a food source for colonization and to get that stimulated on the plant. Those 2 products are mixed together in the spray tank and then applied to the residue. It really only works on residue that's laying down or in contact with the soil. So that's one thing to consider when looking into this. And it has to be applied with some sort of moisture, so technically above 12%, so a dew following a rain event, that type of thing. Then it's Australian sourced biology in it, so it's resistant to the hot summers and whatnot. But that then decomposes the cellulose in the residue, making it very brittle. At the same time as making the residue more brittle and meaning that you can get through it with machinery without having to burn it. That was sort of one of the fundamental things it was developed for. But the other couple of major things that it does is it preserves nitrogen. So that decomposition process with the cellulose digesting fungi is a lot less nitrogen intensive than bacterial digestion. So you preserve a lot of that nitrogen for the following crop. And then that carbon that's in that residue is pulled back into the soil rather than oxidized into the atmosphere. So there's sort of 3 main benefits there.
Excellent. Thanks, Rod. Angus, hope that answers your question. We haven't had any more questions come through, so we might just start wrapping it up there. If you haven't got an account on the AgriProve platform, I do encourage you to do so. If you're looking to, depending on where you're at in your journey, if you're looking to assess your farm or your emissions, or explore the marketplace, that's the place to do it. Also, I suppose there's plenty of resources available as well, and the AgriProve team and the LawrieCo team are both available as well to answer any questions that you might have off the back of today's webinar. So definitely feel free to reach out to either AgriProve or LawrieCo, and we can put you in touch with either Rodney or some of the AgriProve team to be able to discuss soil carbon or the inputs, or basically any questions you've got in regard to the whole process that we've sort of discussed with Luke today. Again, just want to give a big shout out to Rod for his input today and his expertise, and then obviously Luke, great to have you on today as well. It's great to hear what's going on farm, and I'm sure there's been a lot of people get some really valuable insights from your perspective today. So again, thank you everyone for joining, and really appreciate your time, and we'll see you on the next webinar.